Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Guest of Addis, a weekly program on Addis TV. Today, our guest is Mr. David, who is here to address some relevant information regarding the support of the United States to strengthen the rule of law in Ethiopia. Thank you, Mr. David, for your willingness and support and time to come here and to give us this interview.
You're welcome, Mr. Yonathan. Thank you.
Okay. Tell me about yesterday's event. Yesterday, we launched a program called FITE in Amharic, Justice, to support and strengthen the rule of law in Ethiopia. Tell me about this program.
This was a very important event.
Yeah.
The United States government wants to show its support to the current reforms ongoing in the justice sector undertaken by the Ethiopian government. That's why the United States Agency for International Development decided to launch fast time. Usually, this type of programs take years before they are designed and launched. But the approach was to show this support immediately. That's why USAID decided to put together this program right away. It's a very short program, 2 year program. Usually, this type of programs last for 5 years with a much more significant amount of funding. But again, it was very important to show this political will to support the ongoing reforms, and so we hope that this is going to be a first step in what USAID is going to do to support rule of law in Ethiopia.
Rule of law in Ethiopia, we need it now more than ever because we are under the reform. Since we mentioned the reform, how do you feel about the reform? You heard about it, I think, and what do you think personally about what's going on in Ethiopia?
So I'm very recent in this country. I've been in Ethiopia for 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
So February 22nd, and what struck me right away is the strong political will to undertake these reforms, to make the judiciary more independent, more efficient, to have a strong Attorney General's office. So it's very important in this type of projects to count with that political support in order to have impact.
Yes.
So I think it's a very favorable environment to implement this type of projects.
Yeah, now is the time. Then the two can go together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now about the program, what are the specific conditions and approach and maybe guidelines for the project? What are the conditions of the project?
So it's as I mentioned earlier, it's a project with a very limited scope. It's probably just a first step in the support that USAID is going to provide in the rule of law sector. We're going to work with two key institutions, the Attorney General's Office and the Supreme Court, the Federal Supreme Court. With the Attorney General's Office, we're going to provide capacity building on its different directorates and agencies, notably on legislative drafting, but also working to strengthen the international arbitration and international contracting abilities, as well as with the CSO agency, the new CSO agency. We are going to provide them a lot of support to implement the new law, which was enacted a few days ago.
Yes.
As well as with the Attorney General's Office Advisory Council on legislative reform. That's going to be a very important area of our support. So supporting the Advisory Council on several areas, including commercial law. We're going to work on banking, insurance, carriage of goods with them. The idea is, of course, to promote a business-friendly environment to allow investment to grow in the country.
Yes. So we need commercial law to be supported. You are going to support that also.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Very
So
nice.
that's one side with the Attorney General's office. On the other side, we will work with the Federal Supreme Court in several areas. Also on legislative drafting. The court is working on the law on judicial administration, so we're going to support public consultations in that particular area, so that this very important law will be enacted soon, because it's going to ensure and facilitate the judicial independence. But also from a more technical standpoint, we're going to work with the Federal Supreme Court on case management, backlog reduction, because it's currently an issue because of the great number of cases which are still ongoing.
Yes.
So the idea is to create a better flow of judicial cases through new innovative procedures and guidelines.
Yeah.
And we're also going to work on the commercial benches. The same theme as mentioned before, in order to promote investment and facilitate business operations. We're going to strengthen the capacity of the commercial benches.
Actually, we were watching the news about the cases, the cases and the flow of cases, and President of the Supreme Court was mentioning that, and yesterday she announced that you guys are going to help on that area. That is very interesting, because a lot of people are raising issues on this flow of cases in the court. Very nice.
Okay.
Now, is there any strategic plan to implement the program, and to evaluate, to assess, to know its impact, to help in building rule of law in Ethiopia? What are the plans and related to this evaluation and assessment? What are you going to do?
So our approach since the beginning was to involve the national stakeholders in how we are going to implement this project. We have developed jointly with the Attorney General's office and the Federal Supreme Court our work plan for the first year of our activity, and for the second year we also have detailed the broad lines of what we are going to do. So for that purpose, we have proceeded that way, and that has created a very positive relationship already with both institutions. Something that we are going to do also in order to implement this project is to create a linkage with civil society through grants that we are going to award to civil society organizations to help promote the ongoing reforms, but also to create public awareness of these reforms, because yes, most citizens in Ethiopia do not necessarily know what the government is doing, because reforming is not just enacting new laws, but also implementing those laws. So civil society has a very important role in making sure that these new laws will be effectively implemented.
Okay. Is there anything that we left behind, any information that you want to address? You can say right now.
I'm extremely happy and excited to be in Ethiopia in this very interesting and promising period.
Yes.
I've been working in other countries in the past, managing rule of law projects, and this environment is extremely favorable to create impact. So I hope that these 2 years are going to be fruitful. I'm sure of it. And again, I hope also that this is a first step in the support that USAID is going to provide to create, strengthen and promote rule of law in Ethiopia.
Thank you very much, Mr. David, for your time and willingness. That shows actually the support and the cooperation also. I hope I will see you again. Thank you very much. Well, viewers, you have been watching a program on Guest of Addis with Mr. David here to address some information about the support of the United States to strengthen the rule of law in Ethiopia. Until I come back with another program, good night.